Healing Soul Podcast, empowering wellness and oneness. I have a wonderful, captivating guest today, Dr. Deborah Zucker, and she wrote a book, The Vitality Map, that I had the pleasure of reading. It was wonderful, and it had so many golden nugget takeaways for life and transforming your life. And today we're going to talk about transforming anxiety into action. I know everyone listening has some level of anxiety in their life. And welcome to the Healing Soul, Dr. Deborah Zucker.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mary.
Yeah. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about your background?
Yes, so my training is as a naturopathic physician, mental health counselor, and coach. And I came to this calling through my own healing journey that began in my early 20s, which included chronic fatigue, depression, a number of different mysterious symptoms. And yeah, that sort of halted me in the trajectory of my life at that time. And resulted in a deep inquiry. It began on the physical level and then went into the mental, emotional, and then the spiritual. But it really evoked a deeper question of, what is life about and who am I here to be and what really brings me alive? How do I support my own healing? And that inquiry accompanied me along the way as I found my way into these various training programs and degrees and really discovering what's been missing from the conversation, what's not, what are healing practitioners not being trained in? What are the questions that aren't being asked? And yeah, and this has resulted in my life's work.
That's fascinating. So, would you say this work and helping yourself and then helping others has been your soul's path?
Very much so. Yeah, yeah. My own healing journey and supporting others and theirs just really brings me into that deeper contact with what life's really about and who I'm here to be. And yeah, they're very much entwined, kind of these deeper questions that I support others in, as well as how, yeah, that guide my own life each and every day.
That's beautiful. And sometimes the most trying times that we go through enable us to help others even more
Yes.
and have more compassion. So, what would you say is the best approach to changing a pattern that's not working in your life any longer?
hmm Yeah. Yeah, to me that's dis-ease, right? When we feel this sense of not being in alignment with um yeah, just that stuckness. So the first thing I would say, is to pause and slow down. I think for most of us these days, we are sort of carried forward with this urgency and all these commitments and responsibilities, and it's hard to even have any discernment around what's aligned or what's not when we're in the flurry of it all.
Right.
So taking a pause, even, for a minute here and there throughout our day, but preferably to find some time where we can head out in nature. That's one of my favorite things, but we each need to find what works for us and slow down enough to be able to listen, to feel ourselves, to acknowledge what that inner feedback is telling us. And sometimes it can feel like, we haven't actually learned the language to understand what that feedback is, but we can understand it enough to know that there's something, quietly knocking on the door or something that's telling us like this is not working anymore. Something has to give. Like I'm too burnt out. I'm too exhausted. I'm too anxious and stressed out all the time. We get these symptoms that tell us that it's time to make a change. So the first step of the process is to fully acknowledge that to ourselves and to begin to discern what is it that either doesn't belong in our lives, what is it that we're yearning for that feels out of reach, and that's the starting point.
Perfect. Yeah, I really do believe that self-awareness of journaling what feels good and what doesn't feel good will
Yeah.
really guide you to where you need to be. And then creating a healthy pattern. To me, that's making those little choices that by the end of the year are profound.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And like you said, sometimes there can be an overwhelm feeling like we need to change everything in our lives, when we feel that lack of alignment. But even just beginning right where we are with the little choices every day begins to build that muscle of empowerment and trust in ourselves and begins to feed back to give us more energy and aliveness. Each time we make a choice to prune away something that no longer belongs or to invite in something that does, it increases our capacity and vitality to continue to do more of the same and maybe build up to being able to make those larger decisions, those bigger.
Right. Those little wins just make you feel better and you can pat yourself on the back every day. Whereas to me, it's like running a half marathon. You wouldn't start thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do this. You would start a couple miles a day. And then before you know it, in 12 weeks, you're up to 12, 13 miles. And you're like, wow, how did I get here? But I did it.
Yeah.
So just celebrating those little wins and being good to yourself and self-care. So I know you talked about you started this process in your 20s, but was there like a profound life experience that like really woke you up, that transformed you?
Yes, yes. I didn't go into it before, but that experience of spiraling down into the chronic fatigue in my early 20s was that. It just brought me
Okay.
to my knees.
Okay.
I, yeah, it's like I had been through the overachiever, go-getter. I had all these plans for myself. And then it was like I was running, 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 and I ran into a brick wall. And then I couldn't get out of bed pretty much for
Wow.
6 months. Like I had no capacity and it really yeah, sort of shook me awake. And that's what prompted that deeper soul journey for me. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's profound. I mean, to have the energy just to start over and to get up and say, okay, I'm going to look at this. What can I do to change the situation? And
yeah,
now you're coaching other people to change their lives one step at a time. And I really think it goes back to taking personal responsibility for our lives. And we are running, running, running for our kids, for our spouses, for our work. But taking responsibility that if I'm going to be happy, that's got to be from my choices. And what am I going to do about it? And I'm going to have enough self-worth to make those changes for me and not feel guilty about it.
yes, yes. What you're just speaking to is absolutely foundational, and two of the keys that I speak to in my book touch into that. The first key is honoring your unique life. So it's really acknowledging what you're saying, like, hey, like each of us isn't here. We're not an accident. We're each unique and we have this one life to live, that famous Mary Oliver quote. And and what are you going to do with this one precious life? And to actually live from that place, not just, to occasionally remember that, but every day to remember like, hey, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. This our mortality is a mystery. We could die at any time.
Right.
And to actually have that be something that wakes us up to live more fully to turn towards ourselves, not from like a feeling of a burden or like responsibility is really hard, but instead like I get to steward this life. I like to really orient in a way of a reverence for this life that we get to help support. And to not wait, right? To not wait to make the choices that actually serve us, that support our well-being and our vitality, that feed our soul at a deep level. Yeah, to just feel, not an urgency with a pressure, but just like,
Right.
hey, like this is my life. I'm here. Like, oh my God, like what an amazing thing to be alive in a human body and get to experience all these things. And
Right.
yeah, to remember that each and every day as best we're able.
I agree. And just having gratitude for taking a hike and seeing a beautiful bird or an exotic flower and pausing and just taking it in. Those little treasures throughout your day can make all the difference in a perspective shift to having a positive, connected outlook. And to me, I think connection and oneness to nature and having fun and being joyful.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think for so many of us, like trying to care for ourselves or guide ourselves in our life can feel like such serious business. Again, that burden, or we're all spun out in the self-judgments or shame or the things that aren't working. But to pop out of that and realize like, hey, like this can be fun. I can
Right,
actually like be playful and slow down enough, like you were saying, to really notice and appreciate what's in this life, even when it's hard. And
right,
yeah, and to experiment as I go, like try things out, see what feels good, what doesn't, what supports our well-being, what doesn't. Like and be in an orientation of openness and curiosity to to guide ourselves from that place rather than sort of a rigid rule book. And
exactly.
yeah.
Because life is meant to be enjoyed. It's why we're here. And even when we screw up or misstep, if you can laugh at yourself and let it go and just say, what's the worst that can happen from this situation?
Mm,
And
yeah.
I know in the Vitality map, you talk about self-awareness and resilience. And how do you build up your resilience to life? Like, say, we all screw up. If there's a listener that's kind of beating themselves up, how do we really get resilience to keep going?
Yeah. So there's different dimensions to resilience, but one dimension is really embracing that orientation of beginner's mind. That wherever you're at in your path, like really practice, like this is where I am. This is, I'm learning ongoing, in this life journey. Like it's just an ongoing learning journey. And this is where I am right now. So how can I just relax and open to what there is to learn here and to find my next step from there? And resilience, really acknowledges that there's no such thing as a predictable life. There's no such thing as a stress-free life. So to kind of take these idealized images away of what we're supposed to be or what life's supposed to be or who we're told we're supposed to be, and just come back to this moment and recognize like, okay, I'm gonna fall down. That's just part of life. I'm gonna get off track. That's part of life because life isn't linear. It's constantly changing and in a dance. And there's all these things out of our control. Our world, it's like things are just shifting so rapidly in our world right now. So how do we know that we're gonna fall down and orient towards like my job is to find my feet again, to learn the skills to self-regulate, to find, when my nervous system gets all activated, to find how to slow down and find that calm within again.
Right. I know I do a little breath work and just
Yeah.
simply inhaling peace and exhaling anxiety and
Mhm.
having that long exhale, just those little techniques like that help calm yourself down. Meditation, exercise is a great one for me if I'm feeling real anxious to get rid of that anxiety through exercise.
Yes. Yeah, so for each of us to find like what are our go-tos? What are the ways that we regulate ourselves and to find the forms of those that really work for us. So, exercise, like one friend of yours might love to run, but you hate it. And to
Right.
find, like what do you like doing? Biking or yoga or, just to find the different things that light you up and
Right.
to do those. And yeah, and to find, there's different breathing exercises, as you were saying.
Mhm.
And there's ways, that for me, like I said before, just going out in nature, I'm looking outside right now, just like just to find what helps us to calm down, what when we bring our eyes to it helps us to do that out breath and feel ourselves again. How can we bring attention to our bodies? I mean, there's so many techniques.
Right.
But to know that that's like absolutely essential for resilience is to become more self-intimate and to really honor and discover the things that work for us. But in order to do that, we need to try things out. And
Right. And if you, say if you want to change your body or if you want to get more fit, you have to start with self-awareness.
yeah.
How do I feel when I eat this food, or how do I feel when I'm around this person, or when I'm doing this activity? And with me journaling those thoughts and those feelings, are like it helps to guide you in your own self-awareness of knowing who and what you want and need. And it sounds over simple, but I think you agree. It's just slowing down, letting go of the anxiety. I do a grounding technique where I just think of all my stress going into Mother Earth and being released, and then filling back up with vitality and energy from standing in the sun or the moon, and
Mhm.
just having that connection and knowing that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, you named the self-awareness, and this is key number 3 in my book, Strengthening Your Self-Awareness Muscles.
Uh-huh.
And what I want to acknowledge with that is that, like you said, it can seem so simple, but most of us didn't have this taught to us when we were kids. Most of us didn't have this modeled to us, like how to really learn the language of our body, how to learn the language of our feelings, to be able to interpret the feedback that's there for us 24/7, letting us know what supports our well-being, what doesn't, what's really aligned for our soul, what's not. It's like to really get that, and to feel confident with that. But it takes practice, like you said, like if you take some time to journal or to just pause and track what's happening in this moment, over time you're gonna understand that language. And that leads to such a level of confidence and empowerment and skillfulness to guide yourself towards your birthright, your own
Right.
thriving in life.
Well, just realizing that you are completely whole in this very moment, exactly as you are. No change is necessary.
Yes.
Yes, just that wholeness, and that you're worthy and you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to have self-care time, and just changing what you realize for your life and accepting your self-worth will lead you to a wellness practice where you can change the anxiety in your life. And you're always, like you said, you're always going to have anxiety, but the way you react to it is completely in your emotional control.
Mhm. Yes.
So having those coping methods. And, going back to changing patterns, and, we might be eating too much or drinking too much or doing other unhealthy things. I know in your book, The Vitality Map, you talk about discipline on a daily basis. So, what are some good things that we can do to stick with and have some self-discipline?
Yeah. So first, I just want to acknowledge, that the word discipline can be very activating for many of us.
Right,
It evokes that feeling of the strict inner parent voice, or the mean sort of judgmental voices, or the shame, of how
right,
we haven't actualized things that we've intended to in our lives. And, for many of us, it can feel like our bodies get all tense and we're bracing ourselves, for what we have to
right.
do. And so first, I just want to reframe that
Okay,
discipline doesn't need to be that way. You know,
okay,
I teach about how to discover easeful discipline. So discipline that actually feels integrated and calm in ourselves, where we're oriented in a way where we have our own back, where we're really clear about our commitments, and we're going to do what it takes to support ourselves in actualizing the changes we seek. But some of the key things that are missing when people try and make habit changes in their lives
Hmm.
is there is not sort of clear seeing around what's going on, like what's getting in the way of that. So being again in that orientation of an active learner about ourselves. So seeing like, okay, I thought if I did it this way, if I, did yoga first thing in the morning, like that would be best. Like I would do yoga every day. But then we discover that every day something's getting in the way in the morning. Perhaps you have a little one at home who needs your attention, or you're really tired because you went to bed late. And so you begin to kind of tease out the things that we view as obstacles to actualizing the change we seek as actually maybe some other real needs that we have, like a real need to get more sleep or a real need to attend to a loved one or there's all sorts of them. So then we can see like, okay, we don't need to put them in opposition. We can just get creative with how we attend to these different needs and maybe find a different spot in the day or a different strategy to allow that behavior to begin to take root. And then the other thing that often is missing are structures of support. So, ways again that we have our own back, that we really support ourselves in maintaining the new habit or change for long enough that we begin to get that clear feedback that it's actually supporting us. That's where discipline comes in because the beginning time of habit change, that transitional time, sometimes it doesn't feel so good. Like if we haven't
Right.
been exercising for a while, it doesn't feel so good right away. Or if
Right.
we remove a substance or food that we've kind of had a addictive quality for us, our body needs to detox a bit. So just knowing that there's going to be that uncomfortable transition, we set ourselves up with structures of support. So that can be people, which is really, really helpful to have people kind of in our process that we're connecting with around the habit change we're doing
Uh-huh.
or or like reminders like post-it notes on our mirror or a calendar reminder or something that's blocked out in our calendar to tell us when to do things. Like there's lots of creative ways to do that.
Okay. Well, I know you do health coaching. So optimally, when you're working with someone, do you work once a week or a couple times a week, or what does that look like?
Yes, well, if I'm in my one-on-one work,
Uh-huh.
typically I'll start off weekly for at least a few months. And then we'll kind of check in to see where we're at in our process. And some clients need to continue once a week for a while longer. Others start to taper down to every other week. And then, eventually once a month, and then might just be an occasional check-in from there. I also do a lot of group programs, primarily with women, and those have different spans. I have a 9 month program where we have retreats, and we also meet virtually in between. I have virtual programs that are like 10-week long commitments. So there's lots of different ways to get those structures of support in the way that yeah I work with people as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful work. And it sounds like um, the way you've structured your program, it could fit into anyone's schedule and they can
Yes.
make that first step toward their wellness routine and developing better patterns for their life. Because like you said, we only have this one life to live, and dedicating some time to yourself with health coaching, I think is a great way to show your self-worth and to move forward into the life that you want.
Yes, I feel that so much. Whether it's me or someone else, we
Right.
all need support. The relational support is huge to really actualize the changes that you seek, to really live in to the life that
Right.
you live.
So do you have any women's retreats coming up in the near future or
Well, I'm right in the middle of my 9 month program that I started in the
okay.
spring. So the next 9 month cohort will be starting next spring.
Okay.
And I live in Bellingham, Washington, so I have a local women's circle starting here in the fall, and then I'll have a virtual women's circle starting in January.
Oh, in
Um,
January. Okay. And then where can our listeners find you? And then I'll put it in the podcast notes, but would it be through your website or how would you
yes,
want them to reach out to you?
Yeah, my website's the best place. So it's vitalmedicine.com. And I actually have a special landing page for podcast listeners. That's vitalmedicine.com/podcast. And I have a free download of a worksheet of the 9 keys to deep vitality from my book, as well as a discount on my services and some information about my books that are there as well.
Oh, wonderful. So your book, The Vitality Map, just to give like one gold nugget to leave our listeners with, what would be something that you could share out of your book that's like your favorite?
Mm. It's hard to
I'm
pick out,
sorry to put you on
hard
the
to pick out.
spot.
No, it's just hard to pick out a favorite.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess what comes up is the final key of the book is living like you matter. And so this is really about recognizing, that, what we've been speaking to. This is your one life. And so many of us are oriented towards prioritizing care for others, care for the world, all of our responsibilities before we care for ourselves. And this key is an acknowledgement that you matter too, and that actually no one else is here to care for you but you. So it's important that we fill our own well first, that we are prioritizing care for ourselves so that we can keep showing up for those that we are here to serve, for a world in need, that we have so much to give through, whatever's uniquely aligned for our soul and our being in this lifetime. But it starts with really supporting our own thriving and well-being. Because if we're not doing that, we're just going to run ourselves into the ground and we won't be able to give what we're uniquely here to give. So live like you matter. That's what I want to leave everyone with.
Absolutely beautiful. And thank you, Deborah, for being on the Healing Soul podcast. And I truly enjoyed your book, The Vitality Map. There's so much good information to transform your life, to handle anxiety, to self-care. I really enjoyed it. And then I will put the links up so our listeners can find you. But thank you again for
Thank you
being
so
on the
much.
Healing Soul.
Yeah.
And then I always pick an intuitive heart oracle card, and today's is free will. You have all the power. Decide today that you want to go after your dreams. You are a powerful soul with the ability to choose your own path daily. Use your free will. You have an opportunity to change every day you wake up. Free will. And thank you, listeners. And share this episode with a friend and hit the follow button. And I really do appreciate every soul listening. And I thank Deborah once again and check out her book, The Vitality Map. I will put that in the podcast notes. The Healing Soul, Empowering Wellness and Oneness. God loves you, and so do I. Thank you.